In the Monument of Triumph update, Bungie added catalysts for every single exotic weapon in the game that at that point was currently missing one, which included a whopping 26 new catalysts. And now, granted, most, if not all of them, are just legendary perks added to the weapon to enhance its functionality, with the exception of one or maybe two, it's kind of complicated, that received their own unique catalysts. And actually, a couple years ago, I posted a speculative video covering what I think the catalyst for these weapons should have been. And believe it or not, I actually got one of them right, which is kind of cool. But anyway, now that I have collected and finished every single one of these catalysts, today we are going over exactly what each of them are and whether you should bother finishing them because they may or may not make the weapon they're attached to hard meta. Looking at you, 1000 voices. And furthermore, 12 existing catalysts that only provided stat boosts, such as on weapons like Hardlight, Crimson, or Riskrunner, had legendary perks added to them as well, also which we will be covering. So if you enjoyed today's breakdown, your like and subscription would be very much appreciated, but without further ado, let's get into it. Starting off with Collective Obligation, this is the raid exotic from Vow of the Disciple, known for leeching and applying every type of void debuff, and its catalyst is rather fittingly Repulsor Brace. So now, every time you score a kill versus a void debuff target, which is something that happens a lot when using this weapon, you receive a full void overshield for 8 seconds. Next is Devil's Ruin, the solar sidearm from Season of Dawn. God, that was long ago. And the main idea of the weapon is collecting fire sprites overcharges it to fire a solar laser that scorches and ignites targets. And getting a kill with the weapon normally is guaranteed to spawn a fire sprite, so naturally the catalyst it was given is Collective Action, making it so when collecting elemental pickups, fire sprites in this case, increases weapon damage by 30% for 8 seconds, which works very well with this weapon. Following that, we have the Khvostov 7GOX auto rifle from the Pale Heart, which is also my personal favorite exotic, and praise the Traveler, they went ahead and gave it attrition orbs as its catalyst, making it so continuous weapon damage eventually spawns multiple orbs of power. And for a weapon that is centered around orb gen and collecting orbs to maximize damage and utility, this catalyst is literally perfect, and is also what I predicted in my speculation video. Tally one correct guess for me. The Last Word is next, aka the Yeehaw hand cannon, and given that throughout the entirety of the Destiny franchise's history, it has been solely a PvP exotic, naturally Bungie decided to give it both Killing Wind and Envious Assassin as its two new catalyst perks. Killing Wind grants plus 20 range, plus 50 mobility, and plus 40 handling after getting a kill, great for getting kills at longer ranges, and Envious Assassin makes it so scoring kills with other weapons overflows the magazine by up to triple the size of base, which to be honest is more of a PvE perk and certainly an interesting perk to have here. So if you love Last Word, you'll probably enjoy these additional catalysts. Next we have Tarrabah, the solar submachine gun earned from Pantheon, whose perk is all about charging a meter that allows it to increase its fire rate and damage, which does chew through your small mag size, which is why Ambitious Assassin is great as the catalyst here. Now, reloading after a bunch of multi-kills will overflow your next magazine by up to 2.5 times base, or around 80 bullets, which is especially good in this case, another great catalyst addition. Wishender is next, the kinetic longbow from the Shattered Throne dungeon, which excels in enemy penetration and hitting multiple targets at once due to firing 3 arrows at once. So to complement this, Bungie gave it the damage perk One for All as its catalyst, providing a plus 35% damage increase for 10 seconds after hitting 3 separate enemies. Very appropriate for this weapon, even better if paired with the Argent Quiver artifact perk from the Implement of Curiosity, increasing bow damage by a further 35% for primary bows. Next is Bastion, the kinetic fusion rifle from Season of Dawn, and it's this one that has a relatively unique catalyst, that being Cast No Shadows, which is actually the origin trait present on a bunch of the older Episode Echoes weapons like Martyr's Retribution, Breachlight, and Perfect Paradox, and it states that dealing melee damage increases this weapon's handling and loads a small amount of ammo from reserves, which is perfect for Bastion because the whole gameplay loop of it is chucking out melee abilities to buff your weapon damage, which in turn also buffs your melee damage. And now that Cast No Shadows as its catalyst offers a way of doing this without the need to reload, makes it an S tier catalyst and propels Bastion into a much stronger position. I recently saw an awesome damage rotation with it posted by your bro Jono, which you can check out here if you're curious. The Chaperone is next, the kinetic rapid-fire slug that predominantly has been a PvP weapon, but now its catalyst actually has some use in PvE because it has been given triple tap, making it so scoring 3 consecutive precision hits refunds 1 ammo from thin air directly into the magazine, which procs 3 times per mag, but the more interesting interaction comes when paired with the kinetic synthesis artifact perk from the encrypted data disk, which states that sustained kinetic weapon damage and rapid final blows have a chance to generate a unique ammo brick. Collecting this brick will grant ammo to equipped kinetic damage weapons and grant special and heavy ammo progress progress. Plus, it reloads the weapon when the bricks are collected, and in the case of Chaperone, this literally allows you to fire the weapon infinitely. Not kidding, it never runs out and you never have to reload. And inside a Well of Radiance with triple kinetic surge, you're cruising at a cool 3k DPS, which isn't amazing by any stretch, but it's entirely brainless and doesn't require much setup. Just something to consider if you're bored and want to mess around. Overall, quite a fun catalyst. Next is Conditional Finality, the dual element stasis and solar sawn-off shotgun from the Root of Nightmares raid, which has been given both Heal Clip and Rhyme Stealer as its catalysts. So now every time you reload after a kill, you receive Cure ×2, which heals for 120 HP, and if you defeat frozen targets or break crystals with it, unfortunately not counting ones you immediately one-shot with the stasis barrel, will grant escalating stacks of frost armor. Overall, pretty solid and synergizes well with the weapon. Coming up next, we have Divinity, the raid exotic from Garden of Salvation, which has also received 2 perks for its catalyst, these being Jolting Feedback and Focused Fury. Jolting Feedback makes it so continued weapon damage eventually applies the Jolt debuff to your target, providing some additional damage over time, and Focused Fury increases your weapon damage by 25% after scoring roughly 1/3 of the magazine as precision hits, which for Divinity is absolutely no problem since all it is a giant crit spot. And another cool thing about this catalyst is that it provides a way to have 100% uptime on the artifact perk Harsh Refraction from the Tablet of Ruin that increases exotic trace rifle damage by 35% on enemies affected by elemental debuffs, which includes the Jolt from Jolting Feedback, synergizing rather nicely. Coming up to the first, somewhat boring catalyst on the list, we have Euphony, the raid exotic from Salvation's Edge, and its catalyst of Enlightened Action, which increases handling and reload speed by up to +50 each with continued weapon damage. Nothing flashy, it's just bonus stats, and I'm definitely thinking something like Hatchling, Slice, or Tear would have been a much more appropriate option instead. Next, we have the 3 exotic Glaives from the Witch Queen expansion, the Void Edge of Action, the Arc Edge of Concurrence, and the Solar Edge of Intent, which, as a reminder, you don't have to get kills for to actually complete the catalysts. Simply head on over to the Enclave and slot the catalyst in. The Void Glaive got Repulsor Brace, and given it has destabilizing rounds built into it by default, there is quite a nice synergy here with the Overshields. The Arc Glaive got Eddy Current, which increases handling and reload speed while amplified, which can I just say is very noticeable. And finally, the Solar Glaive got Heal Clip, where reloading after a kill grants Cure ×2, which interestingly will also activate from triggering the special reload to deploy the healing turret, because it technically counts as a reload. Pretty useless, but a cool fact regardless. Next is the infamous Still Hunt Solar Sniper Rifle from the Final Shape, and for ages people have been practically begging Bungie to give it a reload perk like Triple Tap as its catalyst, and while technically Bungie have given Still Hunt a reload perk, it's a little bit goofy. Still Hunt has received the new perk Lucky Shot as its catalyst, making it so reloading after a precision final blow causes precision hits to refill a round from reserves. So unfortunately, it does require a kill to activate. However, it's not all bad because while not mentioned on the perk description, Lucky Shot can be stowed for later and will only activate once you actually start damaging a target. And the nice part is that this perk does indeed allow you to fire off 2 Cade's Retributions without having to reload, making it a solid and deserved catalyst in my opinion. Yeah, Triple Tap probably would have been better, but admittedly more boring. Next is Wavesplitter, the Void Trace Rifle that's all about collecting orbs to maximize the damage of the weapon. And to complement this, Bungie gave it both Attrition Orbs and Detonator Beam for its catalyst, which work very well together because now you have even more sources of orb generation to activate the supercharged battery, which by the way instantly puts the weapon into full power mode, increasing its damage by 68.7%. And you might have noticed that the catalyst also increases the range stat by 10, but more importantly the ammo gen stat by +30, making it that much better for maintaining its own ammo should you choose to main it. And of course, with it being a trace rifle, you can use Harsh Refraction from the Tablet of Ruin to increase its damage even further. Another thing to note about Wavesplitter and the Tablet of Ruin, intrinsically it is an overload weapon, whereas legendary trace rifles are typically barrier breakers. And if you pair it with the Elemental Supercharger perk from the Tablet of Ruin, which states that defeating exhausted or severed targets with weapons that match your super element grants super energy, because overload weapons apply exhaust by default, you can actually farm any of your void supers rather quickly when using this setup. Just something to consider the next time you're using Wavesplitter. Elemental Supercharger is a very underrated perk for Super Gen that I highly encourage you to try. Anarchy is next, the infamous Arc Trap Grenade Launcher, earnable from the Insurrection Prime Pantheon, and it has been given Jolting Feedback as its catalyst, where now continuous weapon damage will eventually apply the Jolt debuff. Nothing fancy, but at least it fits the theme of the weapon. Following that, we have Deterministic Chaos, the Void Heavy Machine Gun from Lightfall, and it has been given Target Lock as its catalyst, which which improves the damage of it by up to 40% when firing at an enemy, which does improve the DPS and total damage of the weapon. However, in a world where Tractor Cannon and Fafnir are still pretty great for applying more potent void debuffs to bosses, even with target lock, Deterministic Chaos struggles to compete. However, I could see it being used as a long-range Tractor debuff extend option on something like the Agraios boss from Desert Perpetual, for example. Next is the Eyes of Tomorrow rocket launcher from the Deepstone Crypt raid, and when I made my speculation video, I wanted it to get a way of reloading itself based on the kills you got with adaptive ordnance. And Bungie have gone in a similar direction by giving it both Demolitionist and Blast Distributor for its catalyst. Demolitionist will make it so kills with the weapon restore grenade energy, and throwing your grenade also reloads the weapon. And Blast Distributor grants up to plus 50 grenade stat upon scoring enough hits with the weapon. Not bad, but it could have been a bit better. Honestly, I think Subsistence would have made for a great catalyst here. Because, come on, was having a 0 reload Eyes of Tomorrow really going to be that broken? Probably not, but I suppose this catalyst will do. The Lament Solar Chainsaw Sword is next, and it has been given Burning Ambition as its catalyst, where now sustained weapon damage applies Scorch to the target, which eventually leads to ignitions. And looking at a side-by-side comparison of an optimal Lament combo versus an optimal Wolfsbane combo, Lament sits at around 1600 DPS, whereas Wolfsbane is around the 2100 mark. So despite being unnerfed and getting a decent catalyst, Lament is still lagging behind more modern sword options. Don't let that stop you from using it for fun though, it's definitely an awesome weapon. Microcosm is next, the kinetic heavy ammo trace rifle from the Pale Heart, and it has received 2 perks, Thresh and Stopping Power for its catalyst. Thresh makes it so defeating enemies grants an additional 1% super energy per kill, and Stopping Power is a multi-purpose damage perk that number 1 increases the amount of stagger force the weapon applies, making enemies stagger more often, and number 2 increase weapon damage by up to 15% provided the target is below 18% health left. A bit quirky, but it makes the weapon even better versus subjugators. Who remembers whipping this weapon out while farming Dual Destiny back in the day? Moving on to the only truly unique catalyst, we have the one made for 1000 Voices, the raid exotic from Last Wish. The catalyst perk Fall from Grace states that the weapon has become partially taken. Detonations produce taken energy that aggressively seek out nearby targets and blight them. And first off, as you can see in-game, the weapon now has additional taken particle effects emanating from it, and you'll discover that upon firing it, a bunch of taken seekers are released that track to the target, improving the damage of the weapon by quite a substantial amount. Side by side, the DPS goes from roughly 1300 to 1700 without and with the catalyst, and the total damage from roughly 30k to 40k, which is rather significant. The cool part is that this can go even higher, because it is technically a taken weapon now. If the target is blighted by Witherhoard, the tick damage portion of the Seekers is exactly doubled, making way for some pretty cool synergy. And speaking of the Seekers and synergy, because the tick damage from them is so aggressive, when paired with ability regen exotics like Speedloader Slacks, for example, you can do some pretty silly stuff like spamming crackshot dodges over and over again, provided you continue shooting your target. And the best part is this isn't even that bad a damage strategy. Rua here used it to one-phase the Corrupted Puppeteer boss completely solo, and out of all the catalysts on this list, it's hard not to label as one of, if not the best one. Definitely go and finish it if you haven't already. Next up is Parasite, the worm launcher from Witch Queen, which has received a much requested catalyst, that being Envious Arsenal, making it so dealing damage with your other 2 weapons instantly reloads Parasite, opening up the doors for some pretty cool damage rotations, mainly double shotgun blade barrage on Solar Hunter, which I've already created an in-depth video on if you're curious, which let's just say is a very good rotation. So overall, a super solid catalyst. Next is the Truth Void rocket launcher, which on top of receiving a buff that has made it one of the best easy DPS options in the game, it was also given Reaper's Tithe for its catalyst. And for those who are uninitiated, Reaper's Tithe is a damage buff that can provide up to 40% increased damage for 15 seconds, provided you score at least 4 kills before firing another rocket. Simply do this, and now it shows as Reaper's Tithe ready ×4, and then the next rocket fired will activate the perk countdown and the damage buff is applied. And thankfully, 15 seconds is just enough time so that your entire reserves will be under the influence of it. It goes without saying, this is one of the best catalysts you can get right now, so if you have it, definitely prioritize finishing it first. Next is Xenophage, with its catalyst being earned from the Pit of Heresy dungeon. Again, this is a multi-perk catalyst, with it getting both Chain Reaction and Rampage. Of course, Chain Reaction making it so scoring kills generates elemental explosions, and Rampage increasing the damage of the weapon by getting kills with it, stacking up to 3 times, where it's a 33.1% damage buff. Pretty solid for a weapon that's all about melting waves of ads, especially those that feature mini-bosses, bonuses, though I can't lie, I would have preferred something like Onslaught or Cascade Point, but that's just me. Overall, pretty solid for Xeno. Finally, the last catalyst is the one for Winterbite, the heavy stasis glaive from Lightfall earned via ritual playlists or exotic orders, which is the Rhyme Stealer trait. Destroying a crystal or defeating a frozen target grants frost armor. But unfortunately, outright kills with the energy ball don't count as frozen enemy defeats. They need to survive the initial freeze first in order to count and grant stacks. Overall though, pretty appropriate. Next, we're going to go over all 12 weapons which previously had stat boost catalysts only that now have additional perks too. And this is going to be more of a quickfire round to avoid the video getting too long, so here goes. Crimson got To the Pain, Hardlight now has Light Touch, Jade Rabbit now lets you hold reload to consume all stacks of Fateable Fools and fire a micro missile round that scales its damage based on how many Fateable Fool stacks were consumed. Honestly pretty awesome, and I know for a fact this weapon is ruling the Crucible right now and forever. Riskrunner got Chain Reaction, which is pretty sick. Skyburner's Oath got both Burning Ambition and Incandescent. Sunshot received Loose Change, gotta love Loose Change. Touch of Malice had Rapid Hit swapped out for Precision Instrument. Borealis now has Shield Disorient. Cold Heart has Supercharged Magazine. Heirloom has been granted Incandescent on top of what the Catalyst already does. Merciless now gets Heal Clip, and finally the Prospector gets Danger Zone. Finally, Monument of Triumph also introduced 3 completely new exotic weapons into the sandbox, those being Turncoat, Coal's Shadow, and Fafnir, and one by one, Turncoat's Catalyst makes it so the longer you remain within the overwhelming power state, after it ends, you'll be given a Void Overshield whose duration depends on that. Coal's Shadow has 4 options, and I personally like Soulfire Zeal the most because it maximizes your movement speed even while walking and grants 20% damage resistance while active. And finally, Fafnir has received, drumroll please, No Distractions as its catalyst. Wow, so overpowered and busted, ultimate, broken, perfected, insert adjective here, catalyst. So there we have it. That is every catalyst added to Destiny 2 exotic weapons inside of the Monument of Triumph update. The ones you should be prioritizing the most are, in my opinion, 1000 Voices, Truth, Parasite, Khvostov, Wavesplitter, Divinity, and Bastion, to name a few, but with enough time and dedication, it won't take too long to fully collect them all. I hope you enjoyed the breakdown, and if you did, please be sure to leave a like and subscribe for more videos like this, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now, dear viewer.